Okay guys, so now the next stimulus material that I'm going to do a commentary track for is CyberWar, the Great Meme War. Alright, this is from Season 2, Episode 3, which was originally screened on SBS and is part of their Viceland series. If you're not familiar with Viceland, it's kind of like the edgy young person version of news, often trying to, really engage with teenagers and young adults by talking about, once again, more edgier subjects and more things that are probably more related to their interests and stuff like that. So anyway, look, I'm going to hit play, and if you want to watch along while listening to me, that's all good, or otherwise the video will probably just be playing off to the side here. Alright, let's get into this. So, this clip is 6 minutes and 51 seconds long, so a little bit shorter than some of the others. Look, we're opening obviously in a documentary TV series format. This is obviously part of a TV series narrative or delivery model. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at the actual opening of the show, and we're being given a whole bunch of visual content and information to begin with, and as we progress through this, we notice that a lot of this stuff actually gets repeated, right? Some of the interviews that have just been featured and highlighted there actually show up later on in the doco. That's just the format that this series has actually chosen, because it's a week-to-week thing. This is kind of like, stay tuned so that we can actually see what's going on. So yet again, when we're looking at that intro and that format before we actually get into the title, as we can see here, of CyberWar, they're just trying to establish, hey look, here's all the interesting content we're going to get. Right, now moving on, we're being delivered the actual introduction. This is almost like their thesis statement, or this is their introduction, explaining about how memes can be politically activated, politically motivated, and can have an impact on people's lives, and they're more than just this little throwaway thing on the internet nowadays. And yeah, that's one of probably the important things to look at when establishing this. So yet again, when I'm looking at this from a perspective of how, what kind of questions you might get, right? Because it's the documentary format, I wouldn't be surprised if there were questions about, say, editorial control, or selection and omission, or how something is making a political or social statement, or how agenda setting is being presented to the audience. All right, I probably won't get the chance to go through all those in this time, all right? But selection and omission can be down to interviews. Right now we're looking at this Chuck C. Johnson guy, and while we're looking at him, we're giving information about him, we're having an interview with him. He is obviously, as the person being interviewed, going to deliver information in certain ways. The camera crew would have been filming this guy for quite some time. I imagine we're not seeing the whole interview here. So they would choose to select and omit certain stuff to feed into their narrative. Right? The narrative they're talking about here is how these would-be journalists have had a massive impact on the political landscape of particularly 2016 during the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump era of, that election. Oh God, that feels like 100 years ago. But yeah, once again, they're feeding a particular narrative. They're going to take the things that fit their narrative from what he says. He may say a whole bunch of other crazy conspiracy theory stuff, and they've just opted to leave that out because that doesn't help the story that they're trying to drive here. All right? He's obviously saying a lot of good relevant stuff there, and we're seeing a lot of that, but guaranteed, there's a lot of stuff that's probably been left on the cutting room floor when looking at this actual final product that we're viewing, right, in this stimulus. Right. While this interview is going on, I just want to stress some of the other things that this is doing. So once again, the question might be, there might be another question about how does documentary use codes and conventions to keep interest engaged or keep the audience interested, right? With this, we've got a lot of stuff that they're doing, right? We've got lots of cutaway and archival footage to, heavy political discussions and people arguing. We've got lots of funny memes, GIFs, and videos just playing randomly throughout this video. on top of that, the voiceover narration by the actual presenter, I forget his name right now, Ben Manick or something, don't quote me on that. You know, he has delivered his voiceover narration when he's not talking directly to camera in a manner that sounds like a Skype call. It's slightly distorted and sounds slightly computerized, as if it's being delivered through the internet. And yet again, that will be a deliberate thing. He's stylistically creating certain visual looks through the digitized effects and everything like that, an audio aesthetic by how he actually delivers very computerized sound, and they're the kind of things that could be incredibly interesting to discuss, providing the right question has been delivered, because that gives you the opportunity to talk about diegetic and non-diegetic sound, visual cues, symbolic codes, and everything like that. There's a lot of just really interesting stuff that is in there. Now, yet again, going to this interview here, I'm going to be honest, this guy is a piece of shit that they're interviewing right now. I'm not going to mince my words. He's an absolute piece of shit of a human being. But essentially he's a massive right-wing troll. But he has played, you know, what's being delivered here is probably very staged. Right? I'm not saying Viceland or CyberWar are staging this, but the man in question, this piece of shit human being, is probably staging and framing his responses in a very particular way because he has a very specific political agenda. He has a right-wing American political agenda put in place, which means everything that he says and does is going to be in service of that. So for me personally, I would be questioning the authenticity of the stuff that this man's actually saying right now. The narrator highlights that, or the host highlights that and acknowledges that kind of stuff with both the two interviewees that have been discussed, the red-headed bearded bloke and obviously this piece of shit right here. And yeah, yet again, when we're looking at that content and looking at what he's actually, this person's delivering, they're at least acknowledging that, yeah, I said this person's maybe not 100% truthful, but they're giving him the opportunity to, I guess, put his voice across. So there is a good discussion point there as to, well, is, you know, in relation to selection or omission, or agenda setting, or a political or social comment. You have the opportunity in the stimulus package or the stimulus material to maybe provide your own personal spin or take on that. Yet again, if you've done the research prior and you know that that guy's a piece of shit, you know, you can obviously just talk about, well, hey, look, at the end of the day, I personally don't take on board the things that he's saying. I don't think they're legitimate, but, you know, the documentary does demand that you're trying to be impartial. You know, so that's something that you might want to talk about or discuss depending on the question or how you choose to, answer a question and how it's actually framed. So look, we've come to the end of that video. I'd love to talk more about it, but look, there's too much to discuss in this cyberwar. Yet again, please feel free to re-watch this video and listen to my rantings and discussions and my very strong views on certain people in this. Other than that, you can also go to the infographic that has been supplied. All right, the infographics are actually there for you to look at and explore and discuss. And once again, if you're unsure of anything and you're looking at the stimulus material, send me a direct message and I can hopefully fill in the gaps for you. And yeah, look, once again, hope everything's going well with this, guys. Don't forget to take lots of notes because you need to refer to this stuff when you do your exam. All right, this is Mr. Gooch, signing off. Peace out, guys.